Good evening, everybody. This is the Hillcrest Middle School Building Committee. This is a virtual meeting. It is September 2nd, 2025. It's about 7 p.m. Before we start, I'd like to pledge allegiance. I'm going to share my screen. So if you guys could put your mics on and we can say the pledge. Can you guys see my screen? You guys see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. All right, so let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Barbara, can we do a roll call?
Joe Costa,
Here.
Andrew Lubin, J.C. Sinelli, Bill Mecca, Fran Basbagill,
Here.
Ann Sather is not coming tonight. John Morello,
Here.
Bob Gerbert,
Here.
and Jeff Alterman.
Here.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. Do appreciate it. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes from August 19th?
So moved.
I saw Andy, and who was the second?
Bob.
Bob. Okay. Any comments to the minutes? I just have one, Barbara. It's on page 2, item number 2. It's probable cost, not cause.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know. Do we have to take a vote on that, or how does it work?
You just approve it as amended.
Okay. So the word said in the minutes, probable cause regarding the cost of the abatement. And so we're changing cause to cost. Everybody else set with the minutes as amended?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Barbara, are there any review of approvals that are needed tonight? I'm sorry, invoices for tonight.
No, there are not.
Okay, no invoices. Okay, moving right along to new business. Mike Scott, would you like to give an update to what's going on at Taisu Kim in the middle school?
Joe, do we need to have
Yeah.
public comment just in case?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
I mean, I don't know if there's anyone here, but
I'm
I
trying
think
to rush you. If you mind pausing for a second, Mike, we're going to do public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment? No comments. All right. So now we can go invoices, none, new business. Mike, you want to take it from here?
I will. I turned off my camera. I was having some bandwidth issues. So let me know if my audio drops out. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. And hopefully everything will hold together here. So biggest thing is this week we'll be getting preliminary pricing back from both Bismarck and our third-party estimator on that SD package. We circulated that package to some members of this committee and town facilities, and certainly that can be made available for people more robustly. But really, we want to get the pricing back and make sure that we're on target before we speak too much about the contents of the schematic design. In the meantime, to flesh out the schematic design, we have been working with Bismarck and taking what we learned from the town, professional staff, and putting together a more clear sense of how we might go about building this building on an occupied site. I want to run through that with you now. Obviously, this is a good first stab at it, but we can tweak this as we go, as we figure out better what the actual limiting lines need to be between how to construct this building and how to keep the current Hillcrest School up and running, as well as what exactly needs to be in an early release package versus something that could be put off maybe until the whole site is under construction. But most of you should recognize this diagram. It shows you the current Hillcrest School as it opened for business this school year, where buses come in around the oval, and as last year's, cars pretty much go through this loop here. What we are considering while to build this building is first and foremost to capture the field that is between the bus oval and Daniels Farm Road. It's a little bit lower. Capture that area, capture the rear parking lot behind the natatorium, still maintaining a full driving lane through here, and come around this edge here, and then come down, holding the outfield for the varsity softball field, and down around and capturing all of the pits. This will allow for potential construction and entrance directly off Daniels Farm Road, or even provided it's scheduled around school activities at this location off of this driveway. There's additional discussion that we may take possession of the back house service yard that you have in this area of the campus to use as your site, the site offices, and a lot of the contractor storage, taking some of this field for staging. And as we further delineate schematic design, some portion of this area will likely come into service for the geothermal well field. Maybe not all of it, or to the extent that we need to take all of it, we could return this sooner rather than later compared to the rest of this. So in this configuration, school activities would continue as they do today, with the buses continuing to have access on this paved oval, and the cars using this easterly parking lot. The big difference would be neither the high school or the middle school would have beneficial use of the pit or the southernmost fields. Once this building is complete, things get a little more interesting. Essentially, all the students, faculty, and staff that live here right now move into this building, and this building gets a fence put around it as it is abated and demoed. We would do some clever choreography to allow you to essentially flip the switch to make this area right here transform seamlessly from the rear parking lot behind the natatorium to the new bus drop-off for the new school. And we'll have to work pretty closely with Bismarck and the school for the timing of when that actually happens. Obviously, that can't happen overnight, but we could make it happen in relatively short order. And then an additional thought we have is that perhaps the last part of the existing building that gets demolished is that canopy that is removed from the existing school and freestanding. And we would use that canopy for what would become the car pickup loop. So car-based students could exit the new school, come across a pedestrian crossing here, and queue up underneath this canopy. And similarly, in the morning, they could be dropped off here and then make their way to the main school. So this is the hardest part of the project, from having 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. But the other thing that I'll mention is that as this building comes down, we can coordinate with Bismarck as to what areas of the site they can start to return back to the beneficial use of the school sooner rather than later. Obviously, the sooner this school has can give up these parking lots and these parking lots for something closer is to great benefit. So we go over then to the final completion. This is more or less what we're contemplating for the final completion. And we can continue to tweak this. For instance, if we adjusted the alignment of this road, say, to something more over here, we could turn this parking lot over to the occupied new school sooner rather than later. We'll continue to work on those refinements. But this exercise was primarily necessary to make sure that we were tracking this as a cost. You know, where one thing that both Bismarck and Arcadis and TSKP are striving to do here is to minimize the amount of money you have to spend on temporary measures so that you can invest that money into permanent bricks and mortar of the new building. But all of this has to be cooked into the estimate that we will hopefully bring to you next meeting. Questions or concerns about this?
Are there any questions from the committee? No? I have got a couple questions, Mike. If you go back one slide for a second. It has to do with the blue line. Where does the blue line begin?
I believe that buses will come in as they do right now. So we may have to do some choreography where buses take the outer lane.
Okay.
And incoming cars take the inner lane here to come around the corner during peak times.
Okay. So go back one more slide. So that that black arrow that I see, that is the trade contractors entrance point.
Over here?
Yeah.
I believe so. I mean, I think that Greg, both,
Yeah.
I think we have two Gregs here. I think this is thought to be primarily the main staging parking area for trades people.
Okay. So is that going to be paved or is that just going to be dirt, or just describe that to me for a second?
I don't see us paving it. It's probably going to be processed gravel or something, because eventually we have to return it back to grass, I think is where we're headed with this.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, because what I was going to suggest, and you guys might want to think about this from a cost benefit standpoint, is to actually use that temporarily to get to the front of the building. Perhaps the buses use that. They come in, swing across the front of the new building, and then swing back out and come out. So that would be a one-way in to the site to give some access and keep the parents and the buses separate. I mean, that's something you might want to consider if the temporary entranceway is improved enough such that buses could actually maneuver there. I know you might want to consider that.
Okay, we have to look at topography here. This is a bowl that pretty much is down. You know, you can more or less walk level from the pit, squeeze through this pinch point, and come out here. What feels to be level, but in reality, you're probably picking up 5 of the 14 feet of elevation change. But I do see what you're saying. In order to get buses to and through the front of the building, this would be a nice cut through potentially.
Yeah, and the idea there is everybody still comes out, you know, the same way they do now.
Out here, but you never have that awkward crossing that we have.
Correct. You know, that sort of
point. Yeah,
you're right. That's sort of you know, taboo situation. The other question, and I don't know if you guys have thought about this, is if you go to the next slide, please. The demolition of this building, was it thought that we would start at the southern end and work our way north?
Correct.
Yeah.
We looked at that, or, it all depends on the dates. We have it as April, with the new build, and then us getting in there June. And we were just playing with the dates, if we could even take down more to provide more parking in a phase in those 3 months, but that's something we're considering too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Greg. If we could get some base course or something close to the building and, at least have some kind of area just in front of the new building, that would be very helpful. And then that blue fence kind of moves up as you get the work more complete. But that's something you guys have to look at. The final question has to do, of course, with utilities. And when I say utilities, I mean the, gas and power and sanitary. Is there a plan to bring that to the new site around, perhaps underneath the service area? Or how is that going to get back there? You
Yeah, I
guys
think
not gone that far yet?
no, these are good questions. The current sewer line comes from the high school pretty much straight down here into, can't remember the name of that road, starts with an H.
Harvest Hill.
Thanks. And then the existing building throws a lateral out here. So we would more or less mimic that. We would come out with a lateral here or here and join that line and come down. Same with the water service. Electrically, I think we're going to come off of Daniel's Farm or off of the Common Access Road and come down to our building in some fashion. We haven't really gotten there yet. Gas is also coming more from a joint service in the middle of campus rather than right off the street. The current gas line comes in on this side of the building. So if we have gas, which currently most of our schemes don't include gas, we would bring it to the building here.
Okay, good. That's all I have for questions.
I see a couple of hands up, Joe.
Jeff and Andrew?
So I think Greg talked about this a few minutes ago, and we touched upon this in the past. Is there still talk of like taking the pool down before the rest of the building just to give you a little bit more space? And if so, does that help us with the bus flow going around the bottom of the current Hillcrest?
We'll have to see. On the face of it, we want to avoid doing that. Just because while the pool comes down pretty cleanly, there's a chunk over here, if you can see where I'm pointing, that is in active use from the school. So even if you could take down the pool space proper, you don't really gain that much and create a lot of disruption to the orderly operation of an occupied school. So we'll see. The thing that would help the most with taking this down early is it would allow us to push the building further north, which would help with some cut and fill issues that we have right now with the way this current scheme is sitting. So I think coming through this pricing effort, we can put a dollar cost to the inconvenience that taking this area down early will be. And then we could come to you with a valued decision as to whether this makes sense.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. And I may have misunderstood what you were saying before, but what exactly is that estimate? What estimate do you plan on trying to be able to present at our next committee meeting?
Oh, it'll be a cost of the entire project. We're working with Bismarck and a third-party estimator for the construction cost. Those draft numbers we should get as soon as tomorrow. And then we will work with both teams to try to bring those numbers together to a common, what's called a reconciled number, that we can then cast into an overall project budget for you and tell you how we're doing as far as scope and cost.
And how close typically you run that estimate, considering that we don't have final plans or true sign off on what the final building's going to look like? How close do you think that estimate will be to what you're planning to try and present to us to approve in terms of design?
Well, I think all your professional partners on this call will tell you that number will be the number in the end. You will see the plug numbers that we've cooked into it, because you're absolutely correct. We don't know everything about this project yet. So we will bake in certain types of contingencies and show you where those contingencies exist in the estimate, and you can advise you as to what percentage they are versus the completion of the documents. But to be honest with you, even when you bid this building through Bismarck, you'll still have some of those contingencies, because unfortunately unknowns persist even when you're actively building a building, or more specifically in this case, actively demolishing the existing building. You want to keep a little extra money in your pocket just in case.
Andy, this is Jack Butkus. To be more specific, design and estimating contingencies vary based on the level of development of the documents. We carry a heavy design contingency at schematics, carry less at design development. And then when we do the estimates pre-bid with completed construction documents, that design and estimating contingency is essentially zero. And all we're carrying is an allowance for escalation to the midpoint of construction. So you'll see those numbers, the contingency numbers go down, and the value of those contingencies get absorbed by what we learn from the documents and get cranked into the individual trade prices.
Thank you, Jack.
I see Bill's hand up.
Yeah, Michael, just a question about at what point should we consider, or would it be positive or impactful about adjusting the start times for the middle schools, the beginning of their day and their end of the day, so that there's less congestion on Daniels Farm Road, and there's less rerouting or managing of parents and students who pretty much arrive at the same time at the middle school and the high school, and it's quite a fiasco, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I don't know if there's a way of if there's a need, and if so, if there's a way of already having that conversation to influence maybe the adjustment of start and dismissal times.
Well, I think we're keeping, that's a good question, and to the extent that we can improve it, we should. I will say that ultimately, by the time you, sorry, going the wrong way in my presentation. By the time you get to the final completion, you're going to have a lot more queuing space all the way around. So while this combined road, particularly at dismissal time, may be a bit of an issue, ultimately we're going to get you to a better spot. We are actively tracking with the Hillcrest administration, where they are. I just sent Ryan and Katie a note, knowing that their inboxes, I'm sure, were being inundated with new messages. I went ahead and joined the fray. I sent them a quick note just to check in with them on their current bus count for this school year, and where they are on their the ridership numbers as well. And to take the temperature of the district, there has been some discussion that district-wide they may rework the whole busing schedule over the life of this project. So we want to make sure that we are keeping we're preserving their ability to do that and not boxing them in on any of this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think Kevin has his hands up, Mike.
Kevin,
Good evening, Kevin Dion here. Just want to, if we talk about start times, just so everyone's aware, means the high school and the middle schools go off at the same time. Altering one school would definitely impact the resources that are needed for the elementary schools, as well as buses for field trips that go back to the high school at certain times. So it is great to get that congestion off, but as a two-tier system works, it quickly becomes complicated. We did look at that. We have looked and we've presented to the board different elementary school start times. So though we did look at it last year, there can be more discussions, but it isn't solely on Hillcrest's decision or impacting Hillcrest alone, since there's another middle school and THS goes off.
okay. Thank you. I do have one more item. If there's no more questions, Andrew, I see your hand, but I think you've asked your question.
Yeah, sorry.
But if you have a follow-up, you can.
No, I'm good.
I just wanted real quick. We did touch base with United Illuminating. We do need to confirm a little better the existing infrastructure to Hillcrest. The information that United Illuminating gave us was a little different than what we thought. It's lower than what we thought. Although we still feel like we're in a realistic range for the proposed PV array that we're looking at. And we did coordinate with United Illuminating about how this project's going to roll forward. At the end of DD, we will submit an interconnection application with some more refined numbers that will result in what they call a desktop study, but just for feasibility. And then if a deeper study is needed, then UI will want a little more time and a little more money to do a more in-depth study to ascertain the impact of the project on their current infrastructure. This is a normal operation. I will say that unlike other utility providers that we work with, UI wants to push this later in the process than we would like. In other words, this process will start while the design team is ramping up on CDs. So we're going to have to hold some money in the budget for infrastructure issues, perhaps longer than any of us would like, but we can deal with that. And then we have the contact name for the various incentive programs, and whether we do that in the spring or we start that now, we know the contact person at UI to be able to continue to track that. So these are good ongoing discussions with your primary utility provider. Any additional questions? All right. I feel like I'm freezing up, so I'm going to stop sharing. Maybe that will free up a little more bandwidth. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. If there are no more questions from Mike and Taisu Kim, I think we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's the Arcadis update. Jack, do you want to let us know what's going on?
Thanks, Joe. Apologies for no video. I'm not being bashful. I'm just having computer issues tonight. We've been meeting with Bismarck and TSKP. We did have the opportunity to flip through the schematic set. The design narrative that's provided seems to be pretty consistent with all that has been discussed with you all, so there should be no surprises there. One area that Michael mentioned was that cut and fill analysis and the area where the public spaces are, in the north wing of the building. That is an area where, depending on how the numbers pencil out with cuts and fills, there may be some measurable cost impact for the fact that half of that north wing would be hanging over space that's a story grade right now. One of the options that Michael discussed was, if need be, taking down the pool wing of the building and trying to slide the building further to the north to set that slab on grade on actual existing grade. But that does, as you mentioned, have operational impacts to the school. Another scenario, if we find out that the cost of fill is going to become an issue in order to lift that grade up in that area. One wild card that we have is the potential of structuring that and creating quote unquote basement underneath it and getting a space waiver from the state so that they don't count that against us. Again, overall, the state's goal is to support us in doing what's financially the smartest thing to do. And if structuring that was less expensive than a lot of imported fill, that might be a direction to pursue. But I think that's kind of the long shot. So there would be other efforts made to try to balance those costs. From an ed spec perspective, one little fly ball that came out of nowhere recently through some updates from the state is that gas supplies to science labs are no longer eligible for reimbursement. So that may be something that we want to touch base with the school about, how much they intend to use gas in the science rooms. We are seeing a move towards, I'll call them the little camping cylinders, the 1 pound cylinders, to be used on a desk by desk basis if gas is needed in the science lab, as more schools are getting away from full-time piped into the workstation gas systems. We're also seeing in some middle schools that they aren't even using gas at all, just having that in high schools. So that may be something that we want to discuss with Rumble Public Schools to see if we can modify the expectations expressed in the ed spec and avoid the potential for ineligible costs there, especially if we're getting away from natural gas by having a fully electric building. To run a service into the new building and then run piping around the building just for X number of workstations in science labs is a fairly significant expense. So that might want to be discussed. One of the aspects represented in the schematics that went out to estimating is an adjustment to the access of the site that was discussed recently with the fire marshal. Fire marshal expressed a desire to get to at least 3 sides of the building. There was also a discussion about keeping access and egress paths away from what would be the collapse zone of the building. So for firefighting purposes, they would have to keep apparatus further away from the building than we would need to for exit sidewalks, because within minutes of the alarm going off, we're going to be vacating the building. But we still need to verify that the adjustment to the access around the building and where the fire department turnaround would be down by the existing service, the site service area at the south end of the site, if that would in fact be compliant with their expectations. Other than that, we're waiting for the estimates and looking forward to the opportunity to compare and reconcile the estimates. To throw the number on the table, which is probably on folks' minds, the total guaranteed maximum price budget, which includes our design and estimating contingencies, as well as our construction manager's contingency, is rounding off to comfortable number is $118 million. So that's the number that we're looking to see, that or something smaller as the reconciled estimate value. Once that construction GMP number is available, we'll of course roll that into the overall master budget that you folks reviewed and approved at the last meeting, so that we can keep the context. So again, 118 million is the number we are expected not to exceed when we reconcile that estimate in the next week or so. Any questions? I put them all to sleep.
Hey, Jack, I just have one quick question for the benefit of the building committee. Our date of the first view of the estimate, I believe, is September 16th. That's the date we were given, which is the next
that is our
meeting.
goal, correct?
And so I guess the question is, when does the team need a decision to move into the next phase? What's the sort of target date or schedule? Are we talking 2 weeks? Are we talking end of October? Just outline what that work plan looks like.
The end of that meeting would not be too soon.
Well, of course, that means the number is going to be way under 118.
Right. Yeah. In the ideal, we will come in with a reconciled estimate that fits the budget. Within the budget, there are alternates. Within the estimate, there are alternates for the various HVAC systems. So we understand that there will be some time necessary to discuss and decide, depending on how those numbers pencil out. Right now, the quote unquote preferred system is the base bid system, and then the other systems are being priced as alternates. So it'll be easy enough to track those costs and make your decisions. Understanding that the design team wants to move fully into design development and maintain the design schedule. I would hope that by the September 30th meeting, we could reconcile all those concerns, pick an HVAC system that we want to, or bring it down, from the 4 to maybe 2 if we think that there's still some additional discussion. But ideally, pick the system, become comfortable with the price, and give the thumbs up by the September 30th meeting.
Okay, that's good. The other question, I think you probably know this, is that the base building needs to be the base building. In other words, what we need to try to do is identify any scope creep and put that as a alternate or as an additional nice to have rather than a must have. So, please, as we're going through the design and the estimating process, let's make sure that we clearly identify base requirements per the ed spec, and anything above that would be an alternate or, optional.
And another piece of good news, TSKP did confirm that the square footage of the building right now in the schematic design is below the square footage of the ed spec. So we're moving it in the right direction. And we didn't have to stretch the envelope in order to accommodate a design that would absorb the ed spec. We're well within that square footage.
Great. And in the estimate, Jack, can we make sure that we identify eligible versus ineligible costs and predict that, please?
It's a little early to get that fine a point on it, but we will look at gross areas. So if we have offsite utilities, other things that we know are patently ineligible, we'll be able to identify that.
Okay.
In a new construct like this, it's more than likely that the vast majority of the dollars are going to be eligible for reimbursement.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Jack and Arcadis? No? Okay, thank you, Jack. Appreciate the update. Moving on to our construction manager. Is it Greg Sr. or Greg
Yes.
Jr. is going to cover
Yeah,
us
he's
tonight?
listening in tonight. I joked about it. I don't think it's getting dark. He doesn't have time to be outside. that joined the meeting tonight.
Mhm.
So we've met with Taisu Kim a few times, Michael and his team, to review logistics for the site, getting in and out to be the least disruptions as possible, but just keeping that cost idea always at the forefront, which has been a great, actually, working team for us, just coming up with ideas, which is a nice banter going back and forth. We've also started to look at how we're going to be coming in the site because, like you said, there's a domino effect with moving buses and times. So we want to make sure we're getting in that site with the least amount of disruptions there on Daniels Farm Road. I know we always look at these things to put a cost value to capture through our estimate, and that's what we're working on right now is the SD estimate, and we should have that by the end of the week. And then we'll be meeting with Michael's third-party estimators. So that's what we have going on right now.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Any questions for Bismarck?
Yeah, Joe, this is Bob. I have a question.
Sure, Bob.
Yes.
My question is, the surrounds tariffs. Tariffs are on, tariffs are off, tariffs are on, tariffs are off. Now they're in court. What over like the last, maybe 3 months, 6 months have you guys been seeing in terms of the marketplace for maybe jobs that you bid, jobs that are active construction? What are you guys seeing in the market where, these tariffs are coming into play or not in play?
Bob, I'm familiar. You have a pretty good tab on numbers coming in and out, even at your position. One thing is nice for us. We see it as a great bid market. Currently, we just bid West Hill, and it came a little bit under budget for just the Hall Road, that beginning phase. So it's nice to see that bidders are being competitive and putting great numbers out there. For the tariffs, we always put in a escalation, but we have not seen it really affect the numbers over the last 6 months, but something we're going to continue to monitor here going forth, and we'll always keep a tab in there in our estimate for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Greg and Bismarck tonight? No. The one question I had for you, Greg, and your team is when you're looking at the estimates, besides base scope versus add-on, could you guys also keep your eye on potential early enabling work? As some options to speed up the work, maybe get some stuff in place
one
earlier.
thing that's always a nightmare, even just over the summer, we had to do some early release on switchgear, which is always, it was 52 weeks. Now we're down to, 25 weeks, but still, that's definitely something we'd look into. At this project particularly, we don't have a generator getting installed at the time. Obviously we have the plug-in for it. Those things we were considering. That's another one we typically buy early, but it's something we'll look into.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions for Bismarck, next item on our agenda is the next meeting, which is scheduled for September 16th, where Greg is going to bring us some numbers and hopefully reconciled numbers with Taisu Kim's estimator. Can't wait to see those. And that meeting on the 16th will be virtual. We're going to have that meeting and the meeting on the 30th virtual. And then toward the end of the month, we'll decide as a committee whether we want to come back to in-person meetings with Town Hall. So keep that in mind as we're working our way through September. Are there any other actions or approvals from the building committee? I do want to ask Kevin how the RFP is going for the commissioning agent. Kevin, are you on?
Yep, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so we had me and Robert today from Arcadius. We got just finalized version 5. So the bid is out on the market. It's on a DSN website. It will be in the Connecticut Post tomorrow. And it's due September 23rd. We brought it in from October 7th to September 23rd. And questions and answers by September 16th for any of the service people that we have that can answer any. maybe technical questions, but we have options to, and it's not state required, I believe what Jim Nugent said, town attorney. We do not have to interview the three, but we did put it in there for an option if you guys, if there's a good audience and you guys want to interview the top three, we could do this like we've done the last process. Or you guys come up with, the most qualified, best proposal qualification, and we can just go forward with that commissioning agent on the recommendation of Arcadius and you guys.
I'd like to suggest, Kevin, that we do like we did with the previous RFPs, is perhaps have those available to the
Yep.
building committee members on the 23rd. Then perhaps we convene on the 30th.
Yep.
And review them as a group, and then decide whether we select or we interview or we shortlist.
Sure.
What was in the RFP regarding interviews and shortlisting? Was there anything specific?
No, just the top three, like we do last time. I have the one original 10 copies and the one thumb drive we put in there now also. So I will have those available on 23rd. Obviously, the committee knows, like usual, 2:30, 2:15. We could have those. They could drop by the office next 1 or 2 days after that and be available. And then you guys make that decision on the 30th, the 23rd, and we'll support the 30th when you have the meeting, and we can go from there.
Okay, let's plan for that, unless anything changes, like the due date slips or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any extension on this one. People do ask sometimes, but I think there's enough information here. They can get it in by the 23rd.
Okay, and when are questions due?
The 16th, before the 6th.
Okay. Questions. All right. Any questions regarding the RFP for commissioning services? No. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Is there any other business that the committee would like to discuss or cover tonight? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's
Second.
Andy.
Second, Bill Mecca.
Bill Mecca. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time, and
Thank you.
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you
very
very
much.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.